Vice-Chancellor, Deputy Vice-Chancellors, Deans, members of the Platform Party, graduands, parents, families, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a great privilege to address you today, and I'd like to thank the Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Max Price, for giving me this great honor and opportunity of doing so. So first, let me start by congratulating you, today's graduands, on your achievements. You should feel very proud to have reached this important milestone in your lives. And looking at the expressions on the people here in front of me, this is obviously an incredibly important and meaningful day for your families and friends who have supported you on this journey that has taken you to where you are today here at UCT as graduates at this great institution. So standing here today, you already heard when I got my PhD degree, so you know how old I am. Standing here today takes me back to when I was sitting where you are, at a science faculty graduation many years ago, waiting to be capped by a former vice-chancellor, and knowing that my parents were sitting expectantly in the audience, waiting for my name to be called. So when thinking about what I could share with you today, I thought perhaps what I could do is talk to you about the centrality of science in virtually every aspect of modern day life, and what this means for us as inhabitants of this extraordinary country and continent of ours. I also thought perhaps I could proffer some words of wisdom on the state of the science system in South Africa, and what that means for us as scientists, what we need to do to ensure that the science system not only survives, but that it flourishes and that it thrives under your leadership into the future, so that we can advance social and economic development in our country and on our continent. And that would mean having to deal with the very difficult situation of science and mathematics education in South Africa today. I also thought I could talk to you about the role of science and its central position in tackling some of our most pressing health problems in this country, including tuberculosis, which shockingly is today the leading natural cause of death in South Africa, and is a topic that is especially close to my own heart. But I was told by the Vice-Chancellor I had only 10 minutes, and once I get started on the subject of TB, you cannot shut me up. So I figured that wouldn't work. Instead, and perhaps this reflects the nostalgia that comes with advancing age, I've chosen to speak instead about what it means to be a scientist, what being a scientist means to me, what I've learned during my life in science, and how this has shaped the way I think. In his commencement address that was delivered last year at Caltech in the US, Dr. Atul Gawande, a well-known public health physician and writer, put it this way: "It took me a long time to recognize the particular mindset that scientists have. The scientist has an experimental mind. This seemed to me more than a way of thinking. It was a way of being, a weird way of being." My kids would actually agree. They reckon that all scientists are weird. "You are supposed to have skepticism and imagination, but not too much. You're supposed to suspend judgment and yet exercise it. Ultimately, you hope to observe the world with an open mind, gathering facts and testing your predictions and expectations against them." These words resonate very strongly with me. So thinking back, I realized that science has taught me many lessons, some of which I want to share with you. The first is the critical importance and the value of community. To quote again from Atul Gawande, "Knowledge and the virtue of the scientific orientation live far more in the community than in the individual. When we talk of a scientific community, we are pointing to something critical, that advanced science is a social enterprise characterized by an intricate division of cognitive labor. The famous philosopher Bertrand Russell put it slightly differently. This is what he had to say. In science, men have discovered an activity of the very highest value in which they are no longer, as in art, dependent upon progress upon the appearance of continually greater genius. For in science, the successors stand upon the shoulders of their predecessors. Where one man of supreme genius has inherited and invented a method, 1,000 lesser men can apply it. Actually, I hope that Bertrand Russell, who died in 1970, would have recognized that women can do all of this too. Today, as you join the community of scientists, remember that you are becoming part of one of the most powerful collective enterprises in human history, and one that Gawande described very aptly, I believe, as beautifully self-correcting. The self-correction inherent in the system of science is especially important in today's world, given the enormous pressures on scientific research to be immediately relevant and to be highly impactful, which can, unfortunately, and does, lead to hype and exaggerated claims. I would urge you not to ever take this collective enterprise or your membership of it for granted. In this post-truth world of alternative facts, mistruths, misinformation, and fake news, remember that you belong to a community, a very special social enterprise, whose essence is the pursuit of truth for its own sake. There is very great responsibility that comes with this. Please be prepared to bear that responsibility. The second lesson is the value of acknowledgement, seeing, recognizing, and appreciating others. This is a direct corollary of being part of this community. Always remember to acknowledge those who came before you and those who are beside you now, those who support you directly or indirectly, and those whose ideas, thoughts, and actions have influenced your own. Recognizing the importance of this, Sir Isaac Newton, one of those men of supreme genius referred to by Bertrand Russell, once said very famously, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." The third is the lesson on hard work and perseverance. To quote here Thomas Edison, and I love this quote, "I never allow myself to become discouraged under any circumstances. After we had conducted thousands of experiments on a certain project without solving the problem, we had learned something. For we had learned for a certainty that the thing couldn't be done that way. We sometimes learn a lot from our failures if we have put into the effort the best thought and work that we are capable of. This has been a particularly important lesson for me, as by nature I am very impatient. Just ask my colleagues, some of whom are here, students, or better yet, my daughters. Sometimes I wonder why I chose to work on a problem as challenging, as stubborn, and as seemingly intractable as tuberculosis. Our work has been slow, technically difficult, and fraught with a degree of complexity that I could not possibly have foreseen when I chose to start working on this problem 25 years ago. But through sheer perseverance and hard work by the superb group of people that I've been privileged to work with, two of whom are here on the platform with me, and by learning from failed studies, many of which in fact led to dead ends, there have emerged some breakthroughs and insights that may perhaps offer new ways of intervening in this terrible disease. And finally, the value of objectivity, of having and keeping an open mind. As scientists, we're trained in the scientific method. You think of an idea, you come up with a testable hypothesis that's based on the idea, and you test it. If your hypothesis doesn't hold up, you go back to the drawing board. Easier said than done, but that's what we do. Having an open mind is an essential part of being a scientist. In these times of extreme polarization in society, of echo chambers, of intellectual, political, and ideological silos, of dogmatically held viewpoints, and of intolerance of anything that is defined as other, I would like to think that applying the principle of open-mindedness that is inherent in the scientific method might offer a path towards greater cohesion, understanding, and tolerance in this divided and fractured world. You will by now have recognized that the lessons I've chosen to highlight, community, acknowledgement, perseverance, hard work, and open-mindedness, represent universal values that are by no means the domain only of science. However, you might choose to refer to them slightly differently. Ubuntu, gratitude, dedication, balance, and fairness, perhaps. Irrespective of where your futures lie, in or outside science, in this country, elsewhere in Africa, or abroad, I would urge you to always remember where you've come from. You will be taking with you the education, the thinking skills, the creative problem-solving, communication, and life skills that you have acquired at this great university. And if in the future you achieve satisfaction and success in fields outside of science, I know that your education that you received at UCT would have had a lot to do with it. Thank you.